Welcome to TARGA Tasmania. I'm Greg Farrell from Pure Tasmania. As you can see behind me, I'm at one of Australia's most recognisable landmarks, Rest Point Hotel Casino in Hobart, Tasmania. Rest Point will again stage the winners' podium and champagne shower of TARGA Tasmania. This year we have the pleasure of welcoming 300 teams to our state, a record field to a motoring event that is unique as Tasmania itself. The pristine wilderness of our state, combined with the journey through the historic towns and villages, will create the setting for an event unlike any other. 6 days and 2,000 kilometres of motoring heaven. Pure Tasmania is proudly developed around these same unique qualities. It is our pleasure to present TARGA Tasmania.
If you visit Tasmania in the month of April, you might find that you're sharing the road with thousands of motoring enthusiasts. That's because once a year, Tasmania plays host to an adrenaline-packed rally, one that draws the attention of the entire state. It's a real test of man, woman and machine over 6 days, utilising 2,000 kilometres of Tasmania's country roads and city streets. I'm Samantha Stevens and welcome to TARGA Tasmania 2009, the ultimate tarmac rally. Since 1992, TARGA has enthralled people around the state and across the globe. It's a flat-out sprint with over 40 stages, very competitive on closed road, sealed surface. And it also gives people a chance to drool over about 300 different cars. It all started about 100 years ago on another island, in Italy.
TARGA Tasmania takes its name from the famous classic car rally Targa Florio, held in Sicily for most of the 1900s. The format was replicated right here in Tassie. From here, the tarmac-based rally was adopted throughout the world, flourishing in places like Australia, New Zealand and North America. But few places could provide unparalleled access to such winding roads, quick straights and scenic natural beauty. Nowhere has been able to match TARGA Tasmania. The uniqueness of Tassie's roads, the ever-changing terrain and the isolation of Australia's island state all play part in making this the best tarmac rally course in the world. This year has also seen the introduction of a new TARGA event, TARGA Rest Point, a 2-day rally in the south of the state. Local Tasmanian driver Greg Garwood emerged victorious after the 14 competitive stages. His 2004 Porsche holding out against Tony Quinn in the 2008 GTR and Jason White's Lamborghini.
Of course, TARGA Tasmania always has its favourites, and this year is no exception. Let's have a look at the 2008 winners, who are back this year in a very different car.
Defending champions Steve Glenney and Bernie Webb will this year be competing in a Mazda RX-8 SP. It's one of only 5 turbocharged RX-8s, built by the Mazda Motorsport team in Australia. The model itself is the only rotary-powered sports car in the world.
Produces about a bit over 200 kilowatts at the motor and a very healthy 300 newton metres, available very, very low down in the revs. So the turbocharged rotary engine in this particular car produces a lot of torque down low, which makes it very drivable. So yeah, we're looking to really jump out of those tight corners and give these bigger, more powerful cars a run for their money.
With stiff competition this year, only time will tell whether the Mazda team can grasp the TARGA trophy.
Another veteran for TARGA Tasmania is Tony Quinn, the Flying Scotsman. He's back this year in a 2008 R35 GTR.
In 2007, the Nissan Motor Company announced the launch of a new multi-dimensional performance machine. The concept? An ultimate supercar for anyone, anywhere, at any time. And supercar it is. A thundering 3.8-litre twin-turbo V6. The Nissan GT-R pumps out a massive 353 kilowatts and will get you from 0 to 100 in under 4 seconds. Even the automated manual gearbox is different, selecting 2 gears at a time. One gear is engaged and the other is pre-selected, waiting to be engaged by the second clutch. This means no matter how good a gear shifter you think you are, this is better.
The car's brilliant. Seriously, it's the next level, the next phase of car technology. The advantage of it is the gearbox and the four-wheel drive system. It's very good. The disadvantage is the weight and the tyre size. I mean, it's 1,770 kilos dry, so it's about 2 ton by the time you put fuel and driver and navigator in it. It's not only four-wheel drive, it's got a brain that thinks quicker than a NASA scientist, you know?
With a new navigator and the will to win, Quinn is in sizzling form and should have what it takes to steer the four-wheel drive GT-R to a podium finish.
To level out the playing field of TARGA, the competition is split into different categories according to the car's age and performance. The 2 basic categories are modern and classic.
In Pure Tasmania Modern, the field consists of modern and early modern for the late model entries. The Pure Tasmania showroom category allows manufacturers to showcase their most competitive vehicles. Shannon's Classic sees vehicles separated into 3 categories: early classic, late classic and classic outright, to decide the outright fastest classic car in the field. Other classes include the Shannon's Vintage Rally for cars built in the earlier half of last century, and the Pure Tasmania Rookie Rally, a pared-down competition for first-timers of the event. Finally, in the Unique Cars Tour category, vehicles are not timed, but enjoy the TARGA event on closed roads without the added pressure of competition. With around 260 cars in the field this year, TARGA Tasmania is set to be a car enthusiast's dream.
Stay with us, folks, because after the break, it's the first chance to light the wick in Day 0, the Temco Prologue. Welcome back to TARGA Tasmania 2009. We're here at the beautiful seaside village of Georgetown for the Temco Prologue. This is where it all kicks off.
Historic Georgetown on the north coast of Tasmania plays host to the Temco Prologue, a qualification that seeds the field, slowest to fastest for the remainder of the event. For some, it's a time to thrill the crowd. For others, it's the first chance to get acquainted with their machine. Defending modern champs Steve Glenney and Webb were hoping to make their mark once again. To no avail.
Got 0 boost, 1 pound boost. Yep.
Their RX-8 lost turbo pressure on the second corner of the stage. Glenney and Webb finished 50th fastest in the modern competition. No one, however, could beat the old masters, Jim Richards and Barry Oliver. This is Richards' second event with his GT2. A year of testing and tweaking the vehicle sees Richards positioned once again to be a real contender for the modern title. The team has won the modern section 8 times, but has not tasted success for quite a while. It all comes down to the weather. Richards will be very competitive in the dry, but his two-wheel drive Porsche will struggle in slippery conditions. In the past, Matt Close has consistently put down good times in the prologue. This year, he was second fastest and only 1.3 seconds slower than Richards.
I've buckled a right rear rim clipping the curb coming out of the main street of Georgetown there, so which was very tidy.
Tasmanians Jason and John White in their Lamborghini have positioned themselves well, only 2.2 seconds slower than Richards and Oliver.
We had a great run around the prologue. That's probably the fastest that we've been around there since we've been in the event. So, yeah, it was a good clean run and stayed off the gutters.
In the classic competition, Victorians Gary Tierney and David Carra in their 74 Porsche 911 were 1.15 seconds ahead of Tasmanians David Cooper and Brad Sheriff in their muscle-bound 77 Tirana A9X. Gavin James and Neil McLeod rounding out the top three, only half a second further back. The showroom section of TARGA Tasmania is becoming increasingly popular in the event. Rod Salmon and our very own Samantha Stevens were the fastest competitors.
Right to 200.
Their 2008 Mitsubishi Evo 10 set a time of 3 minutes 29.7 seconds, holding out the two factory-prepared Mazda 3 MPSs. Second was up-and-coming rally driver Brendan Reeves, 1.97 seconds back. And third went to veteran driver Rick Bates, 3.12 seconds behind Salmon. With the prologue complete, the start order is now set for the next 5 days of competition.
If you like the smell of burning rubber in the morning, then TARGA is definitely the event for you. Such a large array of diverse vehicles all in the one spot for competition is a very unique thing. And speaking of unique, let's have a look at one of these cars now.
Queenslander Graham Copeland is a TARGA legend. Starting his pilgrimage to Tasmania in 1997, Graham has been coming back almost every year since. This year, it's something quite different. Accustomed to campaigning Datsuns in the classic section of the field, Graham and old mate John Siddons won the classic event in 2003 in a Datsun 1600. These days, Graham seems to have developed a taste for the finer things in life.
Been running for about 10 years, came down in 97 the first time, and sort of been lucky enough, Johnny Siddons and I won it in 2003 in an old Datsun 1600, so that was a bit of a good time. And yeah, had a 240Z, we podiumed a couple of times and then saw these old jiggers and said, no, I've got to have some of that fun.
Graham found the car in an old barn in Kingaroy, northwest of Brisbane 4 years ago, and both he and the car fell in love.
The Ram's Head? Yeah, my wife found it on the internet year before last and hunted it down, tracked it down, found out where it was and bought it and gave it to me for Christmas year before last. And that was sort of the catalyst of it, right? We'll build a car under it.
This is Copeland's 11th TARGA campaign, and with Graham Lepp alongside shouting out the pace notes, it's likely to be the most interesting of TARGA journeys.
Coming up next on TARGA Tasmania 2009, it's days 1 and 2 of competition action. There are many different categories in TARGA Tasmania, and one relatively new class allows for manufacturers to try out new models and prototypes in a very extreme environment. I'm talking, of course, about the showroom category.
This is the Lancer Evolution 10. It's the latest offering by Mitsubishi to the Evo family. Heavier than the Evo 9, with no extra power and with one less ratio in its manual gearbox. You'd wonder what Mitsubishi was thinking. But the Evo 10 is faster, sharper and more explosive to drive than ever before. Thanks to a 5% increase in torque, the Lancer hits 100 k's an hour in just over 5 seconds. Add to this a host of other goodies, stiffer springs, a larger wheelbase and electronic stability control, and you've got yourself a bullet that can turn corners.
Well, look, as much as it's a bigger car, it's got a lot more power in a rev range that's very usable in TARGA. So we're expecting a lot of mid-corner speed and getting on the gas a bit quicker on the exits. It's a little bit down on power to our car last year, but I think that overall the package is much better.
Well, it's finally here. This is day 1 of TARGA Tasmania 2009. We're here at the Launceston Country Club for the official start. The cars are flagged away and they head straight out to Lilydale. And that's where the action really begins.
Leg 1 commences with 9 Targa stages and a total competitive distance of 68 kilometres. Section 1 is centred around the Tamar Valley, with 4 stages to whet the appetite for competitors before Section 2, where things start to hot up. The Mersey and Sheffield stages are the longest and the most challenging. Teams who are prepared and focused will begin to lay down their claims for the trophy.
TARGA Tasmania 2009 has officially started!
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, start 80, press straight 60.
Day 1 of Targa, and teams get the chance to stretch their legs. The Tamar Valley, an area famous for its cool climate wines. Today, Pinot and Riesling make way for horsepower and adrenaline. Morning stages are designed for front runners to drop little or no time. In the modern competition, the main contenders, Close, Richards, White and Quinn, all clearing the first 4 stages. Howell is the first competitive stage, and White drops 7 seconds. Richards and Quinn clean the base time. It's a different story on the Mersey stage, with White the fastest. Staking their claim for contention were Stephen Jones and Ruari Sauter-Dawson, driving a 2007 GTR. They were only 2 seconds slower than White over the twisting 9.9 kilometre stage. The big stage of the day is Sheffield, a fast race through northwest dairy country and then down into the dense Tasmanian forest. This was where Tony Quinn would make his mark, dropping only 6 seconds, 4 seconds faster than second place Jason White.
Our plan is just to stick with them until the rain comes, and then we'll pounce like a rabid beast.
We were spot on probably half the stages, but we lost our satellites on the last money stage, which was Sheffield. So I think we were sort of very, very close to the lead, and I reckon we would have dropped probably anywhere up to 10 seconds. So she's not the sort of road you want to go driving blind on.
In the showroom competition, Greg Johnston and Mike Stoneman finished day 1 with a full 1-minute lead over second placed Tony Warren and Natasha Denise, both in Evo 9s. Running 5th overall in showroom, Rod Salmon in the Evo 10 with Samantha Stevens co-driving struggled on Kwambi Brook.
Hell.
The classic competition is a crowd favourite in Targa Tasmania. There are always plenty of thrills and spills, as well as a close battle to the finish line. In the rookie category of the classics, Chris McPeak and Chris Bunting were pushing a little hard going into a right-hander. In Classic Outright, the field handicapped Ben Worcester and Tim Kulahanek in the 1990 Skyline blitzed the field in day 1. They were the fastest on all afternoon stages. Bill Pye and Grant Geelan have been chasing hard, matching Worcester's time on Sheffield. They were in 23 seconds adrift at the conclusion of day 1 stages. A fleet of cars are chasing hard and positioned well to make their charge on day 2.
Little Crest, 10 right.
Leg 2 features some absolutely fantastic tarmac rallying roads. It's what brings competitors back year after year. The field heads through the exhilarating 14-kilometre sidling stage and then over the mountainous terrain of Tasmania's northeast. It then continues down to the fishing village of St Helens on the east coast. The second section of the day is one of contrasting backdrops, with an old-fashioned hill climb through the old mining town of Rossarden, which is 12 kilometres long, and then the day concludes with a highlight for spectators, the Longford Street stage.
In Tasmania, the seasons are changing. Autumn is turning to winter. While the ground freezes, the pace hots up. The sidling stage is one of Targa's gems. 14 Ks of twisting left and rights before a downward descent to the northeastern town of Scottsdale. It was Rex Broadbent who began to push his way to the top of the leaderboard of the Classics. After coming down with the flu at the start of the event, Broadbent in the 74 Porsche was starting to come good. Ben Worcester's lead was being chased down, Broadbent leapt to third place after the sidling and continued to lay down the fastest time on each stage after that. Bill Pye was also consistent.
7 right and 2 left.
Worcester continued to push hard. His gearbox perhaps a little worse for wear. On the Pyengana stage, Mark Clare and Stuart Greaves had a colourful yet brief romance with a chicane.
Now.
Worcester, Pye and Broadbent all recorded equal fastest times over Ross Arden. The traditional finish of day 2 is a crowd favourite around the historic town of Longford. Tony Quinn was ready for day 2. After day 1, a quality modern field was out to chase him down. 9 seconds separated 4 cars. Jim Richards and a pair of Lamborghinis were ready to pounce. Starting the day in second place, Jason and John White's GPS pace note system had to be abandoned. They were out of their comfort zone and off the pace. Day 2 belonged to Kevin Weeks, producing the fastest times stage after stage.
9 right on crest, 110.
Kevin Weeks and co-driver Rebecca Crunkhorn had drawn level with Quinn atop the leaderboard by the end of the day's 5th stage.
The car's really good. We just got a little bit of a transmission noise that the boys will fix tonight, hopefully.
Ross Arden is at the heart of Tasmania's mining past. In the shadow of the northern mountain peaks, it was once one of the biggest tin-producing towns in Australia. As a rally stage, Ross Arden is open and fast before it begins to twist, the road dropping hundreds of metres below. This was the last stage that would accumulate time penalties, and again Weeks had his Lamborghini at full noise. Only 2 cars would actually clean Ross Arden, Weeks and Stephen Jones in his 07 GTR. Jim Richards and Barry Oliver were not going away either. They maintained their ever-consistent form in the dry and are well positioned for day 3. Clark Quinn, heading to the end of Ross Arden, almost pushing a little too hard. The showroom section of the event for stock standard cars was coming down to a battle between the Evo 9s and the Mazda 3 MPS. Veteran driver Rick Bates was positioned strongly in 3rd place, behind Mazda teammates Brendan Reeves and Rhiannon Smythe in their Mazda 3. 20-year-old Brendan has already made his mark in rallying and proving to be very consistent. In his hometown, driver Greg Johnston maintained his lead through the day, despite losing time when he ripped the exhaust from his car.
So with 2 days and 18 stages down, let's take a look at the Delta Hydraulics leaderboard. In the showroom section, Mitsubishi and Mazda fill the top 5 places. Tasmanians Greg Johnson and Mike Stoneman hold a handy 1 minute 13 second lead in their Evo 9 over Brendan Reeves and Rhiannon Smythe's Mazda 3. Rick Bates in the other Mazda 3 MPS is a further 25 seconds back. Holding the lead in the Shannon's Outright Classic section is Ben Worcester and Tim Kalanick in their Skyline, a narrow lead of only 17 seconds to Rex Broadbent and Michael Godhere, who make up a heap of time in their 74 Porsche Carrera. Longtime competitors Bill Pye and Grant Gillen are a further 15 seconds back. In the Pure Tasmania Modern section, Tony Quinn has done enough to hold on to his lead. Kevin Weeks had a sensational run on day 2, jumping into 2nd place. And veterans Jim Richards and Barry Oliver remain ever poised, only 1 second further behind.
After the break, we'll see what's in store for us in day 3 of TARGA Tasmania 2009. Welcome back to TARGA Tasmania 2009. Well, it's the halfway mark, and the cars that have made it through so far are here in the main street of Launceston for TARGA Fest. Let's check out the action from day 3.
Day 3 of the event heads northwest. It's the shortest in TARGA, but still has 64 kilometres of competitive action. The field heads north to Devonport, with 3 stages ahead of a street stage around the city. The afternoon section gets tough. Paluna, Mount Claude and Laina are the biggest stages to test the crews.
The field begins its climb into the mountains on day 3. An overnight downpour leaving the roads slick and slippery. Just another test for the 250 cars that remain in this marathon event. For Rex Broadbent and Kevin Weeks, both currently sitting second in their categories, the 8 stages that lay ahead are make or break. The leaders of the classic and modern competitions, Ben Worcester and Tony Quinn, have challenges breathing down their necks. Drivers and navigators must now be in unison. Pace notes need to be called precisely, each corner negotiated perfectly. Leg 3's first sprint is Targa Stage 19, just 4.4 kilometres through high plains in the state's central north. In the classics, Tasmanians David Cooper and Brad Sheriff are ever-looming threats to the leaders while it stays dry. On the greasy road, their A9X Tirana struggled. Day 3 had claimed its first victim, but it wouldn't be the last. Tony Alford in the 08 GTR, replicating Cooper's Targa stage exit. The excitement continued on the Devonport Street stage, the easiest trial of the event. Philip and John Blake in the Fiat Abarth, however, still managed to get it so very wrong. Rex Broadbent and Michael Godhere were determined. Their rally was gathering momentum, the car they were chasing showing signs that perhaps their campaign was going to be over sooner rather than later. This off-road jaunt through a potato farm by Worcester and Kilhannock cost them a lot. 25 seconds, the lead, and the repair work on 2 sections of farm fencing. In true action film fashion, this was not going to be enough to stop the 1990 skyline. Battered, bruised, but definitely not beaten, Worcester and Kilhannock laid down the fastest times across Paluna, Mount Claude and Leanna, snatching the lead straight back.
And 8 right.
Bill Pye and co-driver Grant Geelan were also making their mark in the afternoon, faster than the Broadbent Godhere Porsche on several stages. In the showroom section of Targa, Greg Johnston continues to lead the Mazda 3 MPSs of Reeves and Bates. Reeves only making up 4 seconds in the Evo 9. Tony Quinn had seen his challengers edge ever closer on day 2. Day 3 would require Quinn to be confident and consistent. Jim Richards was the man to watch. He started the day just 3 seconds from the lead in 3rd place. He and Barry Oliver would know where to push hard. As the day wore on, the wet roads were drying, and Richards now had the advantage of his powerful GT2 Porsche. Kevin Weeks and Rebecca Klunghorn's magnificent fire-breathing black Lamborghini started where they'd left off the previous day, cleaning the first stage and drawing level with Quinn and Tillett. Paluna Dam is part of Tasmania's hydropower network. It hosts Targa Stage 23, a 16k climb into Tasmania's central mountain range, a stage that would prove pivotal in this Targa. It was the first stage using what is known as a floating base time. None of the crews are aware of what time penalties may accumulate until the last car is completed. The time of the fastest competitor becomes the time that all other crews are measured by. Jason and John White, currently 4th in the modern section, found themselves on home turf. But without their satellite navigation pace notes, it was to be old school rallying for the pair.
Right 6.
Their time shocked everyone. The white-hot Lamborghini was 8 seconds faster than anyone else, launching them closer to the lead. The Paluna stage continued to define this year's rally. Jim Richards and Barry Oliver knew they now had to push for the lead, but it wasn't to be. In 17 years of Targa competition, it was the first time that Jim Richards had crashed out.
Just hit a little earth bank and
We're only probably going about 50k, 60k, and just enough to damage the radiator. One small indiscretion in 17 years isn't too bad, I suppose.
Richard's off was a shock to all competitors and Targa fans. A warning to drivers that the grueling Targa course has no respect for experience or ability. The event across all competitions was wide open.
Well, it's certainly anybody's rally to win, and it's been an exhilarating ride from the East Coast over to the West. We'll catch up with more highlights from day 4 after the break.
Looking for a Targa fix all year round? Then look up Tarmac Magazine. Tarmac is Australia's fastest growing motoring mag. To find out your nearest stockist, order back issues or subscribe, visit tarmacmag.com.au, where you'll find regular news updates and the best motoring videos from Targa and around the world. Tarmac Magazine on sale now. www.tarmacmag.com.au.
Now, the classic section is what Targa Tasmania is all about. You've got the big tyre-frying Mustangs up against the teeny minis and Fiat Abarths. And as this entry shows, Germanic style never goes out of fashion.
In 1968, BMW released the vehicle that would ultimately launch the auto manufacturer to success. At the time, the company was still struggling to right itself after the Second World War. The new 2002 changed all that. With a measure of sportiness and sophistication, the model defined what it meant to own a modern, compact sports sedan. Throwing it around the corners is Steve McClintock.
Been 10 years in the making. It's done 3 classic Adelaides, but it was particularly built to do Targa. That's why we're here. This is my second Targa. First one ended in disaster last year on the prologue, but we're back with a vengeance this year. Same car, rebuilt.
Combining a roomy interior with sports car handling, this 2-litre twin-carb 2002 Ti is certainly one of the timeless classics.
With 3 days and 26 stages behind the field, the event becomes as much about endurance as beating base times. Day 4 is by far the longest of the event, 130 competitive kilometres across 8 stages. And there are some beauties. Sathana and Hellier Gorge are competitive favourites.
Caution, narrow post, 200.
203 kilometres down, 232 k's of tarmac still yet to be negotiated. Stages like Sathana, Strawn and Mount Arrowsmith lie waiting. The event and the leaderboard are always reshaped over the mountains of day 4 and 5. Lake Sathana's winding road is a doorway to the Cradle Mountain National Park. It's considered a giant in world tarmac rallying, 37 k's of speed and endurance. It is Targa's Everest. Many have tried, many have failed. Weeks began the stage, determined on increasing his overnight lead.
Then 7 left, 140.
Is Lamborghini accepting the mountain's challenge? Weeks would not only survive Sathana, but nail it. A time of 17 minutes and 15 seconds.
3, 2, 1, go!
The Whites started the day no less determined. Weeks had thrown down the challenge.
We're in strife if it rains. It was only just damp, but we could feel that, the car wasn't going to be very compliant.
White would forfeit second place to Quinn. Quinn's Nissan is far heavier than the Lamborghini's. The downhill sections caused the GTR's brake fluid to boil and the car cut out.
Its brakes underneath the floor.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. 10 left, 140. Oh, come on!
In the classics, Bill Pye and Grant Geelan made a charge. A blistering run in Sathana giving him second place. Worcester still in the lead, but he had a fight on his hands. The showroom competition was also hotting up. The mountain climb's perfect for the Mazda 3s to push Johnston's Evo 9. Johnston, however, answered the call, having some dream runs through the next 5 stages.
We've just started the event as far as I'm concerned. Into Sathana was halfway.
And in the last 2 stages, lost a little bit of time because our brakes were still needed a good lead.
The field darts downwards through the silver and zinc mines of Rosebery. It was here that Brendan Reeves cut the corner, puncturing his tyre. He and Smythe lost time and were given the mandatory 2-minute penalty for changing the tyre. On Hellier Gorge, Broadbent absolutely nailed it. His 74 Porsche on a knife edge. He jumped from 3rd to 1st in just 1 stage, 37 seconds faster than Worcester and Pye. The run into Strawn cost the Whites much more. White had started to lose touch.
I can't see a thing, John.
Weeks had now done enough to maintain the lead. Quinn in hot pursuit.
This is manic. You know, these guys are after you and you can't take a breath. If you do, you'll be back in 3rd position or 4th. So no, we just keep pressing on.
Looking at the Delta Hydraulics leaderboard at the end of day 4, in the moderns, Weeks and Crunkhorn's Lamborghini sits 8 seconds in front of Tony Quinn and Naomi Tillett's GTR. The Whites losing major time with their brake problems. The Vandenbergs wait patiently in 4th place. In showroom, Johnson and Stoneman are now dominating with almost a 3-minute lead over Warren and Denise. Reeves' tyre change pushing the Mazda 3 back to 3rd. And in classic outright, Broadbent and Godhere have started to pull away from their rivals. The Worcester Calais Next Skyline has started to fade after being punished all week. Chasing them down are Bill Pye and Grant Geelan.
Stay with us, folks, because after the break, it's day 5 of competition action. Welcome back to TARGA Tasmania 2009. Well, we're finally here at the finish after a gruelling leg 5. But before we check out the action, let's have a look at one of the cars in the modern category that is certainly turning some heads.
In 2008, Lotus released the supercharged Exige S to terrorise much larger and pricier cars on racetracks around the world. This year, the British automaker spiced things up by adding lightness to its repertoire. Dripping in carbon fibre, the Cup 260 version of the vehicle now tips the scales at a little under 900 kilos. And with 192 kilowatts at its disposal, it's good for a 100k per hour sprint in just 4.1 seconds. At the helm, Sydney motoring journalist Dean Evans.
Yeah, it's based on the Exige S. It's about 20% more powerful and 5% lighter through all the carbon fibre and weight-saving components. It's worth about $140,000. It's a bit of a David versus Goliath, but I suppose it's David with a carbon fibre slingshot with a scope on it.
Driving the car in its worldwide motorsport debut, Evans and navigator Simone Backman should have all the ingredients they need to steer the Lotus to the pointy end of the field.
With 340 kilometres of Targa stages completed, day 5 means everything. And to crash out here on the last leg is heartbreaking. Only 5 stages, but those stages total over 100 competitive kilometres of rallying. The long, challenging stages of Strawn and Mount Arrowsmith greet the field ahead of a fast sprint to the finish.
Mining is the lifeblood of the West Coast. The bare hills of Queenstown, a testament to the industries that reside there. The roads leading into the surreal landscape, open and fast. The climb out is Targa's steepest. These are the roads of the Targa legend. Weeks and Crunkhorn's lead is fragile, 8 seconds only. Quinn is fast. fast enough to snatch the lead from Weeks. His heavy GTR was going to struggle on the next stage, climbing up the desolate mountainside of Queenstown. Weeks had to push on, but it was the Weeks Lamborghini that faltered.
Oh!
Kevin Weeks and Rebecca Crunkhorn were both taken to hospital. Weeks with a chest injury. Their Lamborghini lay twisted on the wet roads of Queenstown. A sad end to a courageous campaign. White continued to lose time. The brake problems were not rectified and time penalties started to mount up. In the 47-kilometre Mount Arrowsmith stage, Quinn maintained the pace. He capitalised on the Whites' problems as they continued to spiral down the leaderboard, losing a further 2 minutes. The Vandenbergs found themselves in third place and were watching the Whites' times fall. They now had second place in their sights. Classics, and Broadbent only had to endure till the victory was his. Pye and Worcester now battling it out for second and third, but the well-prepared 74 Porsche had the measure of the tired Skyline.
I'm not counting any chickens yet. I've been in this situation a couple of times in Targa and on both occasions got to the last stage and lost the event.
Always driving along, checking every single gauge on the transport stages, hoping we're going to get through.
It was game on for Pye and Geelan, setting some very quick times. Worcester and Kalanick were left in their wake. Pye took second place and then made a start on gaining some breathing room. Tony Quinn and Naomi Tillett preserved first place on the remaining stages. After one of the closest Targas ever, they found themselves with a 6-minute lead. White and Vandenberg battling it out for second place.
It's not a really enjoyable task to sort of just try and survive along and not really sort of compete as such.
The rest point finish line beckoned. The Whites would hang on. After a consistent drive all week, the Vandenbergs found themselves on the podium, very content with third.
After the break, we catch up with the winners of TARGA Tasmania 2009 and celebrate with a drop of bubbly.
Well, it feels, as good as it can possibly feel. This is the premier Targa event in the Southern Hemisphere, I guess. And to win it, this is my 10th year, and to win it on the 10th year is something special.
It was exciting and it was funny.
Funny, yeah. This guy's got a few jokes on him, doesn't he?
Especially through the stages.
Oh, can you give us an example?
Last stage, we just had a good old cackle.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, that's the way rallying should be, isn't it?
It's always the way I've done it.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster this year. We were very much down at the day one, came back in the middle and then went down again and then came up. I don't know what happened.
No, it was a good fun week. It was a good tussle between everyone and I think we all thoroughly enjoyed ourselves.
No, the camaraderie amongst all the other competitors, it was fierce as you mentioned, but gee, we got on well. It was really good. There was genuine camaraderie there.
Yeah, look, this started in 2003, Sam, and we won our class from a partner Cole then, and it's been a journey and a target, and keep saying there's unfinished business. I don't know what there is now. I've got a good navigator and it's a bit hard to stop, so yeah, it's a special feeling.
This is how the final Delta Hydraulics leaderboard shaped up for TARGA Tasmania 2009. In the vintage rally, Copeland and Lepp emerged victorious in their 1938 Dodge Speedster Special. In second place, just 46 minutes behind, were the Clarks in their 1937 Riley Brooklyn Special. In early classics, the Batten team gained first place in their 1961 Volvo PV544. Just under 10 minutes behind were the Ulrichs in the mighty 1963 Jensen CV8. And in third, White and Yelds in a 1961 Volvo 122S. Taking out the late classics were Ireland and Ribbett, steering their 1977 Porsche 911 Carrera 3 to the podium. Just 12 seconds behind in second were Ellis and Lacey in their 1980 Ford Escort RS 2000. Third place went to Sutton and Kelly, driving a 1979 Mazda RX-7. And in classic outright, Broadbent and Godhere took first position in their 1974 Porsche 911 Carrera RS. In second, almost 2 minutes behind, were Pye and Geelan in the same model vehicle. And bringing it home in third were Worcester and Kalanick in their 1990 Nissan Skyline GT ST. To the rookies, and hitting the top spot of the Rookies Classic were House and Howe in a 1983 BMW Alpina C2. 31 seconds behind in second was the 1971 Ford Falcon GTHO of Swan and Swan. And coming in third were the Hughes team in their 1982 Ford Falcon. Taking out the rookie modern category were Richmond and Leamish, campaigning a 2005 Nismo Skyline GT RZ tune. Just over a minute off the pace were the Jorgensens, achieving second place in a 1989 Nissan Skyline GTR. Third place went to Lane and Lawrence in a 2009 Mitsubishi Evo 10. In the showroom category, Johnston and Stoneman held on to their lead in their 2007 Evo 9. In second place were Warren and Denise, 3 minutes 26 seconds behind. And in third, the Mazda 3 of Reeves and Smythe was a further 2 minutes 46 seconds behind. Winning the early moderns were Shaw and Parrish in their 1997 Mazda RX-7. Coming in second were the Beebles in their 2000 Nissan Skyline GTR. And in third, Walsh and Burke in a 1994 BMW M3R. And finally, in the outright modern category of TARGA Tasmania 2009, Quinn and Tillett took out the event in their 2008 Nissan GTR. In second place were the Whites in their Lamborghini Superleggera, a full 5 minutes 58 seconds behind. In third, the Vanderberg stepped up in their Evo 9, a further 13 seconds off the pace.
Well, sadly that brings our target competition to an end.
What a week it's been. I'm Samantha Stevens and this has been TARGA Tasmania 2009, the ultimate tarmac rally.